Hello class 10. Today we'll start with a new chapter of plant physiology. Till now we have done a lot of chapters from the human physiology. So I've planned to start today with plants, and it's a very interesting chapter, and I think it's a very known topic also to you all, that is photosynthesis. We all have heard from our childhood what is photosynthesis. We all know it. It is the process by which living plant cells containing chlorophyll produce food substances, that is glucose and starch, from carbon dioxide and water by using light energy. So it's a big definition, but we have to learn it because in class 10 you need to give a very detailed definition in your ICC exam. So it is a process by which living plant cells containing chlorophyll, they produce food substances, and the food substances are glucose, which is again stored in the form of starch within the plant body. And what are the raw materials needed? Carbon dioxide and water by using the light energy. Plants release oxygen as a waste product during photosynthesis. Okay, so oxygen is also released as a byproduct, but it is released into the atmosphere, and also you must know it that a bit of oxygen is also used for the plant's respiration process. Now, what is the importance of photosynthesis? First of all, it is ultimately the source of energy and food for all living beings, directly for the plants, but for us also it is giving energy indirectly, because while making food for themselves, they are trapping a lot of solar energy, and when we are eating those plant products like vegetables, fruits, even the leafy vegetables, we are getting indirectly that trapped solar energy for our well-being. Secondly, another very important point is it is giving out oxygen, which is the basis of our life. So definitely it releases oxygen into the atmosphere, which supports all life on the earth. So these are the two importances of photosynthesis. Now, what is this chlorophyll? Chlorophyll, it's a pigment, and it is found in an organ of the plant, or organelle rather, microscopic cellular structure known as plastids. And among those plastids, one of the plastids is chloroplast. Within this chloroplast, we can find the green coloring matter, which is known as chlorophyll. Now, what is the structure of this chloroplast? They are minute oval bodies bounded by a double membrane, and their interior contains closely packed flattened thylakoids arranged in piles known as grana, lying in a colorless ground substance called stroma. Let us see the diagram. See, this is the diagram. We are getting an oval shaped structure. Also, we are getting a double membraned sac structure. Also, we are getting the pile of thylakoids, collectively known as granum, and we can also see the ground fluid or the ground matrix known as stroma. You can see that these individual units are known as thylakoids, and when they are piled up together, this single unit is known as granum. It is a singular word, okay, and plural is grana, and this dotted structure inside is the ground substance or the stroma, right? And we can see also these kind of interconnections. These are known as frates or the intergranule thylakoid, which is connecting one granum with the other granum. I hope it's clear. This diagram is very important. So students, you have to practice it. Okay. Now, there may be 40 to 50 chloroplasts in a cell. The pigment chlorophyll is contained in the walls of thylakoids. This is the location of the chlorophyll. You must remember this. So, you must remember this point, that the pigment chlorophyll is contained in the walls of thylakoids. This is the location. So, definitely it is very important for your ICSE. It is a highly complex substance composed of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen and magnesium. This is also a very important point you have to remember. They are mainly contained in the mesophyll cells located between the upper and lower epidermis of leaves. So this is again the location of chloroplast. Previously it was the location of chlorophyll. This is the location of chloroplast. Please mark it, very important for your ICSE. These are mainly contained in the mesophyll cells, a special kind of tissue which we can find in the upper and lower epidermis of the leaves. There we can find the chloroplasts. And within the chloroplast, in the thylakoids, chlorophyll pigment is present. I hope it's clear. Now, these are also found in the girth cells of stomata and in the outer layers of young green stems, because you know the structures in the plant which are also green, the very minute structures, they also contain chlorophyll. So we also must know that they are also found in the girth cells of stomata and in the outer layers of young green stems. There may be more than 5 lakh chloroplasts per square millimeter of leaf surface. You will be surprised to know that there are 9 types of chlorophyll, but most abundantly found is chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. So these are the 2 types which are found most abundantly. Now, too much light can destroy the chlorophyll, because you know chlorophyll is the main component in the photosynthesis process, which is trapping the sunlight. So it is highly sensitive to light. So too much light can destroy it. However, the formation of chlorophyll itself depends on the exposure of the plant to light. That means a plant, how much it is exposed to light, supports or facilitates the formation of chlorophyll. The grass growing in the shade under a stone turns yellowish due to the non-formation of new chlorophyll and due to the disintegration of the older one in the absence of light. So you can understand, this is a very small example that the formation or the persistence of chlorophyll depends on the exposure to light. Next, regulation of stomatal opening for letting in CO2. Now, what is this? We all have heard about stomata. These are the minute openings occurring in large numbers on the ventral surface of the leaf, that means on the lower surface of a leaf. And what is the main function of stomata? To let in CO2 from the atmosphere for photosynthesis, because you know from where the CO2 will diffuse inside. It will diffuse inside with the help of the stomata. When stomata are not in use for photosynthesis, that means when it is in dark, they tend to close their openings so that water loss is minimized from the leaves through transpiration. When there is light, as after sunrise, they reopen to allow CO2 to diffuse in. That means when the light is not there in the darkness, because photosynthesis cannot occur, at that time the stomata tends to close their openings so that the water vapor cannot go out through transpiration, and they can keep the water inside, so that there will be no loss of water, excess water. Okay, and when there is again light, they will again reopen to allow the CO2 to get inside. Transpiration occurs along with photosynthesis. Due to this process, one can say that transpiration is the price which the plant pays for photosynthesis, because transpiration can occur only then when the stomata is open, and that is opening because of photosynthesis. So we can say that transpiration is the price which the plant pays for photosynthesis, because photosynthesis is necessary for the plant, because they need to manufacture food for themselves. Clear? The closing and opening of the stomata are on account of the movement of water in and out of the Goethe cells. They have a thicker inner wall facing the opening and a thin outer wall on the opposite side. Their cytoplasm contains chloroplast. As we can see in this picture, it's a very clear picture of stomata, one in the open state, another in the closed state. And on account of the movement of water inside and outside of the Goethe cells, the closing and opening of the stomata depends. Okay. Now, regarding the opening and closing of stomata, there are two theories. Clear? One is sugar concentration theory, another is potassium ion concentration theory. Sugar is the old one, potassium is the recent one. Now, according to the sugar concentration theory, during daytime, the Goethe cells begin photosynthesis, and the sugar or the glucose produced during the process increases the osmotic pressure, which draws in water from the adjoining cells due to endosmosis. Hence, the Goethe cells become turgid and bulge outwards due to their thin outer wall, thus widening the stomatal opening lying in between. As the stomata open, the diffusion of gases in and out begins for fulfilling the need for photosynthesis and for allowing transpiration. That means what? When at the daytime photosynthesis is occurring, then it is forming or manufacturing glucose, and because glucose is manufactured, the osmotic pressure is increasing, which helps to draw inside the water from the adjacent or adjoining cells due to a process known as endosmosis. Hence, the Goethe cells, they are becoming very tight, they are swelling up, they are turgid, and they are bulging outward, thus widening the stomatal opening. Right. If for any reason the water content of the leaf is falling short, the water is drawn out of the Goethe cells due to exosmosis, making them flaccid. As a result, their inner thick walls straighten to close the stomata. If for any reason, suppose the water content is less inside the plant, maybe more amount of transpiration, or maybe for a bright sunny day, dehydration, whatever it can be, then that water is drawn out from the Goethe cells, and due to exosmosis they make them flaccid. Flaccid means they shrink. As a result, their inner thick walls straighten to close the stomata. So this is the way how the opening and closing of stomata is based on the sugar concentration. Similarly, there is another theory, but it is a recent theory and this has become obsolete. Okay. That is this potassium ion concentration theory. According to this theory, the stomatal opening and closing depend on the generation of potassium ion gradient, the difference of the potassium ion. During daytime, the chloroplasts in the Goethe cells photosynthesize, which leads to the production of ATP. This also we know that photosynthesis definitely gives energy to the plant, and energy in the form of ATP. This ATP is used to actively pump the potassium ions of the adjacent cells into the Goethe cells. Increased potassium ion concentration makes them hypertonic. Hypertonic means more concentrated. So, again, by the osmotic pressure theory, more water from the adjacent cells are drawn inside, and the cells becoming more turgid, and they bow outwards to open out the stoma. Reverse happens at night. the ATP is not generated. That is why the potassium ions are pumped outside, right? So the Goethe cells, they do not become turgid, rather they become flaccid, and they closes. The potassium ions leak out, and the turgor of the Goethe cells reduces, and the stomatal opening closes. So I hope both the theories are clear to you. And how is it different from each other? In the first theory, we are seeing the sugar concentration is decreasing and increasing, and depending on that, the Goethe cells are opening and closing. And in the second one, we can see the potassium ion concentration is either decreasing or increasing with the help of what? ATP. And ATP is generated when? During photosynthesis. I hope it's clear. So students, today up to this, please go through the chapter. It's again a very important chapter for your board exams, and you can get very minute, questions from within the chapter. So please go through the chapter, the textbook very nicely. Okay, thank you.